It's time for Political Empire. This is Jeff Horseman with the PressEnterpriseMP.com, here to tell you about what's going on with the 31st Congressional District. We got even more candidates declaring for that. And then we're going to shift to Sacramento, where there's a bill concerning campaign finance disclosure that our Sacramento reporter is going to talk about. So first, next year's Democratic field in the 31st Congressional District is getting more crowded. Earlier this month, Redlands Mayor Pete Aguilar announced his candidacy to take on Representative Gary Miller, a Republican from Rancho Cucamonga. House Democrats encourage Aguilar to run, but he probably will have company. Attorney Eloise Gomez-Reyes, a Grand Terrace resident, said that she is all but certain to run for the 31st. And former Representative Joe Baca is apparently setting his sights on the 31st after declaring his intentions to run in the 35th Congressional District against Gloria Negroni-McLeod, who beat him last November. Miller, by the way, has already filed paperwork to seek re-election. Moving on, a bill in Sacramento seeks to tighten the disclosure rules for campaign finance spending. And here to talk about the legislation by phone is Sacramento reporter Jim Miller. Jim, what would this bill do?
It's an interesting issue, and I kind of happened upon it in the course of going through some of the spending reports that were filed earlier this year for the legislative campaigns that took place in Riverside County last fall. They were so expensive and kind of blanketed the area with TV ads and radio ads, and came across Assembly Bill 800 by Richard Gordon from San Mateo. And what this bill gets at is the many sub-vendors that work on campaigns. Just by way of brief explanation, campaigns pay money to companies to do work for them, and in many of those cases, those companies in turn hire sub-vendors who may hire sub-vendors who may hire sub-vendors, and so on. And under current law, those expenses sometimes get reported, they sometimes don't, because right now it sounds like there's no clear rule on who is supposed to report the sub-vendor expense. And what AB 800 would require is it would put the onus on the subcontractor or the sub-vendor to report their payments and spending back to the campaign. And the overall goal here is to increase transparency for voters who are looking at a particular race or a particular candidate's campaign finance statement.
All right. So if this bill were actually law, and looking back to last year, how might it have applied to some? We had some very fiercely contested state and assembly campaigns. How might it have affected that in terms of disclosure?
It's interesting. It's not totally clear. I mean, the thing I was looking for in candidates' spending reports and the spending reports of some of the independent groups that were involved in the elections last year was kind of from point A, the spending of the money, to point B. When they bought the TV time from one of our cable providers, that was not obvious from the reports that were filed earlier this year. If AB 800 had passed or does pass and becomes law, it might, hopefully, would, I should back up. I mean, supporters hope that AB 800 would provide a clearer nexus between what's paid by a campaign and how the money is actually spent. So in the case of our races, this 31st Senate District and the 61st Assembly District, maybe we'd be able to look at a spending report and see that, okay, the Richard Roth for Senate campaign paid $1,000 to a media buyer, and that media buyer in turn paid $900 to Charter Cable. One would hope maybe someday we'll get that real transparent kind of information that can help explain what went on.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jim. We appreciate it, and thank you for watching Political Empire. We'll see you next time.